Welcome to Behind the Audition Podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition Podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition Podcast. This week, I got to speak to the amazing voice actor, Melissa Medina. Melissa has been in countless roles, and we talked about how she got started. She spoke about how she chose some of her roles, how keeping business hours is important, and taking a step back to be a fan. So sit back and enjoy another episode of Behind the Audition Podcast. And coming to the show, the very, very, very talented Melissa Medina. How are you doing today?
Hola, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm super excited to have you on the show. I have seen a lot of your work on social media. I've actually noticed some of your work, looking at your video game work as well as your singing work. And I say you are very, very talented.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What was the switch that turned on and said, I want to be a voice actor? When did this start and why did you want to become a voice actor?
It's actually like I'll try to give you the short version, but essentially I started out in classical singing.
Okay.
And did that for a while, toured a little bit, and then I had that reality check of like, oh my God, I have student loans and I need to get a job and like have a place to live. And so yeah, I went into IT for, I don't know, 10 years, something like that. Completely gave up on anything vocal related. And I ended up in Seattle, living in there for a few years, working with some tech companies and stuff. And it's one of those things where you have to like live, eat, breathe everything, the company.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just decided like, I can't do it anymore. I can't. I need to be creative. I need to, do something different. So I saved up. I left and I said, I haven't taken a vacation in like 10 years. So maybe I should do that. Took a vacation and started listening to audiobooks. And I was listening to The Watchtower, I think it was, from Stephen King. And I said, this narrator is amazing. Who is this? And I looked them up and I went, oh, this is a job. And I just had to do it. So I just like went full bore into learning and taking classes and like trying to remember some of my vocal training and stuff. And so I actually hopped in with audiobooks and then fell into video games.
I came across your profile back in the casting call club. I don't know that. I mean, I think a lot of voice actors get on there and I will tell you, those directors are the hardest to audition for because that project is their baby. And I thought, I'm going to be honest, I had a little bit of arrogance. I'm like, I do commercials. I do video games. I'm going to go on here. I'm going to, get some of these jobs. I actually was like, wow, they don't play around. And I saw you on there and I was like, oh my gosh, who's this? And I saw that a while back. And is that one of the spots you first started on, is the casting call club?
Yep. I started on there because I thought, okay, audiobooks are great, but boy, are they a marathon. What else can I do? So I just started auditioning for random stuff on Casting Call Club and yeah.
That is awesome. I think that's a great website for anybody wanting to get in this, to start out, to practice, to learn, read copy. What was the first big project that you auditioned for that landed you like a character or a commercial?
Let's see. For character work, I think, I'm trying to remember now what the first ones were. I think there were probably some audio dramas, if I remember correctly. And I know there's a tons of audio dramas on Casting Call Club. And I just thought, I haven't even considered acting, like I've always been a singer. So I don't know, let's try it and see what happens. And so I think that was the, How I Died was one of the first ones. It's a podcast from Audiome Media. And now they've got like 8 or 9 podcasts, I think, something like that. So they've grown hugely since then. And yeah, you find some gems on Casting Call Club.
Absolutely. And, you said you're a singer. Were you a singer before you were voice acting, got into voice acting? What do you prefer, voice acting or singing?
Ooh, Ooh, that's a tough one. I think voice acting is a fun challenge, but I also think that I need to sing, if that makes sense. Like whenever I'm upset or, read the news or whatever, I need to sing as an outlet to get things out. So for me, I would say that singing is still pretty high up there as far as an outlet goes.
I want to know, how do you get in front of people and sing? Because I'm the kind of guy that thinks I could, I'll play around when you're by, everybody does. They sing by themselves in the car. How do you get in front of somebody for the first time and think I'm a good singer? How do you do that? Get in front of people and think you're good enough to sing and are okay with like their expressions.
Okay, so there's a couple of tricks with that though. So like I have always had stage fright. I still do. Even when I'm voice acting in front of a couple of, strangers, I have terrible stage fright. And I when I was touring and singing, we went to the what is it, the Sydney Opera House, right? And we did a residency for a little while. And the first night that I had to go out on stage, I threw up before I went out on stage. I was so scared. And what happens is, like, if you're on a stage, for instance, you go out and you're terrified for about the first 3 seconds. And then your programming hits, as far as I have been practicing for this, or I have been wanting this, I am prepared. And then all those times that you practice just sort of takes over. And if you're lucky, you can tune out the audience. And if you're on a big stage, you really only see like the first few rows of people. Everybody else is just dark. So you can kind of try. I would tune people out. Some people really love to connect with the audience and stuff, but I'm not one of those people.
and I with your character and your singing, I noticed I when I watch some of your singing work, do you like get into like a character before you sing? Because I noticed you do like some of your characters' voices and you sing, and that's so cool because I think artists that sing really don't get into characters. Sometimes you'll see them like kind of act on stage. Most of the time they'll sing and they'll just be normal and singing. But you have this really cool way of you turn your character into a singer and you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how do you prep for that?
I think I just sort of feel my way through it. So I'll start with the acting portion, develop a voice or whatever. Oftentimes, I will audition for like animated movies that are musical,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll start with the voice, because if I can't talk as them, then I definitely can't sing as them. um, and once I kind of lead with the acting voice, then the singing voice, I kind of can plug it in and try to make sure it kind of sounds uniform as I go through. But yeah, I always start with the acting part for that for some reason.
That's cool. That's cool. And then for like some of your characters, I noticed you like to play, at least I think you like to play, like you play like a lot of dark, mean characters, and you do a really good job at that. How do you get ready for those roles? Like, what do you do? Do you look over the character? Do you talk to the director, or do you make those characters your own?
I make them my own, and I think that's part of the appeal, is that we there aren't a ton of people who are willing to to be the bad guy,
Yeah.
And so I will take those roles and I'll go, not only will I be the bad guy, but I'm going to be the worst guy, right? And well, for me, I used to be a pretty angry person. I had a rough childhood, so I
Mm-hmm.
had that anger, and I was able to get it out in singing in a bunch of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very easy for me to tap into that
Mm-hmm.
and start with that and just let loose. Like if I'm upset or something, I'll just save it for later.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. And going to social media, I just want to give you a good shout out. You are really like, you're very supportive of like all the, like most voice actors are. Everybody is very supportive on social media. And I want to say a shout out to you for supporting those who are having bad days. I know it's not about
Oh,
you. You seem to be very supportive, and you I guess you pick out those ones that are having bad days and you lift them up. And I want to say, thank you to that. I mean, even if it's not me having a bad day, I see you doing that. So I just wanted to give you a shout out for that, on social
thanks.
media, because I think in the world we live in today, with the pandemic, we might act like we're in a good mood all the time. And I think mental health, and today, even being a voice actor, we're all in this room recording, and it feels good to reach out positive. There's still people who are just choosing to be negative, but you choose to help those out. So thank you for doing that.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. I think that's one of those things that is very important to me too, is well, like authenticity in general, right? And if we're always happy, that's not very authentic, especially with the world as it has been lately. And I guess it's like my way of trying to encourage a little bit of that, like authentic negativity, if that's a thing.
Hmm.
It's one thing to complain on social media. It's another thing to just say like, "Hey, I'm not doing well," and reach out to people.
Absolutely. One thing I was taught in this role is to have thick skin. And when I first started doing this, I'm not one for somebody to say something negative about me, but I'd rather somebody be honest with me. What would you tell for those getting into voice acting how to produce thick skin? What would you tell them?
I think that you grow the thick skin without even knowing. I think that's part of it, is that every time you go out for a role and you never hear anything back, you don't really register it consciously, but over time it develops and you have this implicit idea that, well, I wasn't right for that role. And then you start tweaking and building and you leave behind the I didn't get picked.
Right.
And I think that we naturally do that. But I think that having the mindset of it's not that you suck, because I think
Yeah.
we all feel that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
God, I suck. But it's not that you suck, it's that you weren't picked. They could
Right.
only pick one out of the hundreds or thousands that went for it. So it's more about, what is it, selection rather than rejection.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we build that over time naturally, but keeping in mind that it's not that we suck, it's that they can only pick one.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that question is because I do see people on social media, and I guess TikTok is becoming a pretty big one for auditioning on TikTok, auditioning on social platforms for those wanting to get into the
Interesting.
role. I saw some new show coming out. I actually auditioned for. I wanted to try it because I'm always open to something new. I think
Hmm.
people are scared to expose their auditions and their skills online, and I learned real quick it's not being narcissistic, but you got to show yourself on social media. You got to get out there in front of social media. And if they're thinking that you're narcissistic, well, that's their problem. But I think you have to get out there and you got to show people that, hey, I can do this. And there are people that are getting into this, but they get their feelings hurt real quick. And I guess they don't
Mm,
understand that you got to suck it up a little bit and get some thick skin. And at the same time, if you're in it for this, you got to get that thick skin. So thanks for the feedback on that.
yeah, for sure. And I think you can have insults or you can have nothing,
Right.
right? And if you are getting insults, then somebody watched it and you move them enough, even if it's negatively, you move them enough to type out a little comment. So that's still something. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. And tell me about a dream role that you'd love to have. Like, what's something that we can that we you want to get into that we can plan on seeing you get into? Because you seem to do a really good job. And what do you want to get into?
Ooh, okay, so lately I have been thinking about more of the AAA game landscape,
Hmm.
and I've been lucky this month to do a few things in that regard. But one of my dream roles has been to work on like a Bethesda feature, something just a massive world that people can go and engage with people in, and so that would be a dream role for me, is to work on a Bethesda project, something like your Fallout or something like that. They do such a good job of interweaving stories.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I love video games is because, you can spend 20 something minutes for an animated series, but you spend 40, 60, 80 hours with these people in these video games. And you get to, cultivate this great relationship with somebody you don't even know. Yeah. So
Absolutely. So do
something
you
from Bethesda.
do you choose video games over commercials? Do you prefer video games over commercials and like narration work?
Um, I think that I don't know if I have a conscious choice. I think that my style of acting and my voice goes better with video games, and with commercial work. I think my voice doesn't necessarily match type very well. Because like, what do I do with this voice? I don't know. So yeah, I prefer video games, but I still go out for the odd commercial stuff too.
Wonderful, wonderful. And talk a little bit about marketing. How do you, in your position, how would one market to get, your name out there, your auditions, is there a specific marketing tool you use?
I have a marketing philosophy.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. So my thing is that I don't like networking as it's often defined,
Hmm.
because of my main thing is authenticity, right? And
Right.
so for me, I try to play both sides of the field, the indie scene and the professional scene, right? And um I think there's nothing better than investing in your peers and your the people who do what you do and supporting them, because I mean, probably 10 to 20% of what I do is from a peer referral, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, and I do the same thing. If I get an opportunity for a role and I just go, you know what, I think I know somebody better, then I will I will go and refer them too. So I think that's a big part of it, is peer referrals and investing in your network. And I think the other thing is being honest
Hmm.
online and showing what you can do, and also showing that you're a real person who has flaws and makes jokes and stuff, um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I make terrible jokes all the time and people put up with it. But also I think in the professional space, um, I think you can use some of the things that you cultivate on social media as a foundation for building something else with professionals as well, because I went straight to production companies, like Bang Zoom and Formosa and stuff, and I just said, hey, I do this, here you go, and I love what you do, let's see if we can work something out. And when I ended up working with them, they said, we had heard of you from social media, but we didn't know who you were or what you could do. So that was a way in to do that and work with those people. So yeah, I think people underestimate some of the social media elements, and yeah, it's toxic, but you can build walls for some of that stuff, and make it livable.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head right there with the networking. One thing, I was working with a coach and they were telling me you have to build relationships, building relationships, because you'll see voice actors. You'll see it every day. Hey, I'm a voiceover. Here's my demo. And they'll just send it to everybody, and they'll actually send to other voiceovers. Like, wait a minute, I'm a voiceover,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know why you're sending this to me. Or
Yeah.
they'll email my website. Hey, can I be added to your website? I'm like, so you can take my jobs? I don't know what, so I think, if you're going to get into this role, I think one needs to really like you nailed it. I think build a relationship. Authenticity is very important. And your content, kind of show you what you're about. One thing I actually came across some of your content was cracking me up, the driving the cars, that was hilarious. Like that, just show your personality. I think just, you don't always have to be a voiceover. Show your personality, be
Yes.
different. You know what I mean? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. There's somebody I know, I can't think of their name right now, but they say, I'm a voice actor, but that's not my whole personality.
Yes.
And I think that that's really important to cultivate, because any casting director I've ever spoken to or worked with has said, like, we want talent, of course, but there's talent everywhere.
Right.
So we want real people, and people that we can trust and connect with. And how can they connect to I'm just a voice actor, Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I love that. And if you were to go back in time, would you want to be doing what you're doing now, or would it be something else you want to be doing?
I would be doing this. Like, it took me way too long to find this, a long, windy road, but I don't think I would be doing anything else now. And I never even considered doing this, up until like a few years ago. So
That's honest. And, I don't know about you, but I have such I get up early in the morning for this. I'll go to bed late doing this because I have such a passion. What do you
Mm.
do during those burnout times? Like when you get burnt out, everybody gets burnt out. What do you do to control your burnout?
Okay, so yeah, I started full bore at this and I burned out hard. Um, and I have learned that having regular business hours is important.
Okay, that's great.
And yeah, you can customize, or you can make exceptions, but literally make them exceptions if you if you do that. And that includes weekends, nights, because your agents, managers, whatever, they're working 24 hours a day practically. And that doesn't mean that you have to also. Um, that's their business model, not necessarily ours. And then the other thing I would say is, yeah, I have times where I have auditioned for 100 things and not booked anything. And that's when I realized that I'm just hitting my head against the wall and there's no way that I can power through. And there's something that I'm missing, whether that's inspiration or energy or whatever. So that's when I force myself to take a break and I will go watch media that I love. I will go watch TV shows and movies and listen to podcasts and just be a fan for a little while.
Yeah.
And then once I feel like I've done that enough, I feel pretty rested, then I come back and I've got new information in my head of like, oh, so and so did this that I really loved. And you can bring that in and like refresh your creativity.
I think that's great feedback. I know that there's times everybody, they act like everything's sunshine rainbows, but you can tell when they're like, what's going on? What's wrong? So I think it's good to kind of step back, recharge the batteries. And that was some great feedback. It's time to have some fun. It's time for the audition challenge.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I sent you a fun script here, and you can use the script any way you want, any voice. But whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. So I'm going to do my quintessential villain voice here.
Awesome.
Okay. Well. Looky here. A fresh victim that wants to challenge the Medina monster. You have no idea what you're up against. I don't know. Something like that.
That was awesome. No, I was like, I love it. I think that was really good. That was great. So what's coming out that you could talk about that you can let us know what's going on?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I can't talk about anything right now. Let's see. Oh, there are some indie projects that are in development that I'm a part of that I'm really excited about. There is a musical platformer kids game called Billy Bust Up that I play a pirate queen
Very cool.
in. And she sings as well. So
Okay.
all of the characters sing. So there are like musical levels and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be amazing. And I'm super excited about it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That sounds cool. And before we go, for those, I always do this with everybody, getting into the role of voice acting, somebody brand new, I always like to ask the question, what would you tell them to do for first step, and how would you proceed in getting into this role?
Ooh, two things I think that are really important that I wish I knew. One is your equipment doesn't matter as much as you think it does. Your space matters more than your equipment. And two, try everything until you find the perfect thing. Because you may go into it thinking, I want to do anime. And then you find explainers or you find trailer work or whatever, and that's your thing. So I would say be open to everything and try everything until you know exactly what it is and where you belong.
Absolutely. And how can we follow you on social media and all the fun platforms? Where can we find you at?
I think I'm Melissa Medina VO on Twitter, Instagram.
Thanks for listening in on
TikTok.
Behind the Audition Podcast.
You got to
Made
try it.
possible by
It's scary,
Hilton
but you know what? I
Productions.
tell you,
If you need a
it becomes
male or
addicting. I'm
female
going to warn you.
voiceover,
It's going to
contact
no.
us at
addicting.
hiltonproductions.com.
All right, I'll keep
Hilton
an eye out, but I'll
Productions.
probably
Let
be
our
Melissa Medina
voices
VO
do the
there
selling.
as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show. You are wonderful, and we'll definitely have to get back on sometime.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Melissa Medina.
Bye.